Hey guys, our passage today comes from John chapter 6, verses 1 through 15. As we read this, man, listen, I want to tell you, this is one of my favorite passages in all the Bible. And I'm going to tell you, it's one of my favorite passages for three reasons. Number one, because it involves food. Number two, because it involves food. And number three, because it involves food. Listen, man, this is like the big holy barbecue right here. I love it, dude. Listen, and Dr. David Pendergrass really helped me understand this chapter because, see, I was guilty of something that I think a lot of us do is we read this story of Jesus feeding the 5,000 people plus women and children with nothing but a couple snack packs of the Capri Sun. As we read through this story, it's easy to get caught up in some of the details. It's easy to get caught up in the boy and say that the boy had this kind of faith or that the boy believed this about God or believed that about God. That it's easy to get caught up on the fish or the disciples or on the crowd or on this, that, or the other, when the reality is that none of those things are the point of this text. That the point of this text, as Dr. Pendergrass really helped me see, the point of this text is Jesus. It's not any of those other things, but it's the point is Jesus. And that Jesus, John paints him as the God-man, the Word, put on flesh and moved into the neighborhood. That the God-man Jesus came in and he did something that only God could do. That Jesus is not just another man, but that he's the God-man. He's God in the flesh. And that if he wasn't, he couldn't do what he did. And on this day, he met the physical needs of the people. And as we look at this, to see that in this beginning part of the chapter, he met their physical needs. What we'll see later on in the chapter and what we'll talk about later on this week is how Jesus, as the God-man, will meet the spiritual needs, will meet the deep needs, the satisfying needs of the people in an incredible way, in a way that only God could do. The point is painting Jesus as the God-man, and that he will satisfy and meet the needs of the people in this story, the physical needs, but ultimately the spiritual needs of people. And so my question for you is this: as you read through the chapter, and I want you to read chapters 1 through 15 first, and then as you reflect on it through this video, the questions that I want to ask yourself is this: how are you allowing Jesus, the God-man, how are you allowing God to satisfy and to meet your needs? How are you allowing him to meet your needs? Now, I'm not talking about the desires and the needs of, like, God, I want to be successful at this. I want to date this girl or that. I'm not talking about those kind of needs, those kind of desires. But I mean the spiritual needs, the spiritual desires that you have, that all of us have a God-shaped hole inside of us, that a place where only God can fit. And yet we try so often we try to just fill it with all this stuff. We try to fill it with success, and we try to fill it with popularity and with accomplishment and with dating and with love and with sex and with lust and with this, that, so many different things we try to just stuff in, thinking that if and only if I can get this, if and only this I can get that, then finally that desire inside of me would be filled. Finally that desire, that longing would go away, it would be satisfied. But what we find is that as we look for it in one thing, and we find that that's not enough, and so we have to go back and get 2 of that, and then 3 of that, and then 4 of that, and then before too long, we're so caught up in the search that we don't even remember what we're trying to satisfy, what we're trying to fill. It's like eating a sandwich or a Whataburger, man. We eat it once, and then like 45 minutes later, we got to go back and eat another one. It just doesn't satisfy permanently. And yet Jesus, in this miracle, we see that not only can he satisfy and meet the physical needs, but he'll satisfy and meet our spiritual needs, our spiritual desires, because he is God, and only God can fill a God-sized hole. Nothing that we dump in, nothing that we try to put in that hole. It's like throwing sand into the Grand Canyon, man. We're never gonna get there. But yet when we place God in his right spot in that God-sized hole, he will satisfy every desire, every spiritual need that we have. He doesn't always come through and satisfy our physical needs. That's not what he promises to do, and that's not what this miracle promises. But what we do see, that is Jesus as God, what he does promise to do is to meet us in a spiritual sense, to satisfy our spiritual needs. And oftentimes he does that through a physical way as well. And so I want to challenge you guys today. Consider, what are you doing to allow God to meet your needs? How are you allowing him to do that? And as you do, I want you to memorize John chapter 6, verse 35, and know and let that just sink in, just take root inside of you, that it is Jesus and Jesus alone, that the God-man alone can satisfy the deepest desires, your spiritual desires of your heart. So I love you guys. Listen, take this, own it, and as you do, let it propel you to go change the world. I love you guys. We'll talk to you soon.